Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Holistic Hatha Yoga. I'm Kelsey, your host, and I am here to talk all things Hatha Yoga, holistic health, meditation, breathing, soul work, the whole shebang. So, welcome back. Welcome back. So, on this week's episode, I'd like to talk about Yog Nidra, or yogic sleep. It's really, Nidra does translate into sleep, but that doesn't even really cover it of what we're doing here when we talk about Yog Nidra. So we'll just call it Yog Nidra because that's what it is. And there really is no real translation to it. So, people do say yogic sleep all the time, and it is true that is like the quote unquote translation. However, this is not sleeping at all. It's actually the complete opposite of sleeping. And so, yeah, I just want to kind of clear the air there and kind of get that confusion out of the way that although it's called yogic sleep, we are in fact not sleeping. So what is it then? So Yog Nidra is a session that ideally is anywhere between 20 and 45 minutes, depending on how much time you have for it. And it's a practice where you lie on the ground in Savasana. If you've been in any yoga class before, hopefully you know what Savasana is. It's the corpse pose at the very end of the yoga class where you lie on the ground and just lay on your back with your palms facing up. Savasana is a great pose in general for our bodies to experience on a daily. And it really helps our body. It helps our circulation. It helps our nervous system. It helps our lymph system. Savasana does all sorts of lovely things for us. So, during a Yog Nidra session, ideally you would spend that entire time lying on your back on the ground. I don't recommend doing it in a bed because beds are just too comfortable and you will end up falling asleep, or at least that's my experience. So it's nice to have a nice firm floor underneath you so that you have that grounded support underneath your body. So anyway, with yogic sleep, you just start in a comfortable position on the ground, and then you just listen to the guide, and they'll do quite a few things. So they usually start with some sort of breathing, to just kind of get the body used to the closed eyes and bringing the attention inward. And then it moves into this is a really fun part. So with Yog Nidra, like I already discussed, it's not sleeping, but you're not fully awake either. So you're kind of in between in this subconscious area. So if you could picture like an iceberg floating in the water, the top of the iceberg is like our conscious mind, and then our subconscious is still that iceberg under the water, and then our unconscious mind is like all of that water underneath that is floating that iceberg around. And so we kind of move from upper to lower portions of our consciousness depending on what we're doing in our day. So in Yog Nidra, we relax the body and the mind to come to this place of the subconscious and experience our being at this level. Because when we're in the conscious mind, the mind comes up with endless things for us to think about, to attach to plan, to worry, to do literally like a lot of, I don't want to say useless, but kind of useless things, A lot of our brain noise is simply that. It's just noise. And so this subconscious level, coming down to the subconscious, it allows us to kind of eliminate that mental chatter let our own personal truth come through. And it's also a super powerful place for us to plant seeds personally. So, and by plant seeds, I mean to be able to set intentions or a goal or whatever in this state of the subconscious. And it works so, so, so powerfully when we embed this at the subconscious level, because then it's working underneath all of that conscious mental chatter. Then the subconscious level knows the direction that the ship is steering towards, and they're going to move that way. And and so this is a really powerful place to be able to set intentions and place those kind of seeds that we want to grow within ourselves, but we're finding maybe a hard time doing it working through the conscious mind. So this is a great time where we kind of circumnavigate the conscious mind, and we dive into the subconscious, and we do our work from there, and then let that groundwork kind of grow up into our conscious life and conscious world. So this is called a resolve or a sankalpa, when we choose something that we repeat to ourselves, usually just a few times in the beginning of the practice and a few times at the end of the practice, to kind of just bring your whole mental and body and spiritual aspects all on the same page, basically. And these sankalpas, they should be very, very simple. It should not be overcomplicated. And it really honestly shouldn't even be that specific. Um, and so from like an example would be like, I live a healthy life every day, or I become healthier every day, or I'm awakening my spiritual potential, or I am calm, healthy, and balanced in mind, body, and soul, or I am full of joy, or I have strength for whatever comes my way. Whatever it is, it's just make it something simple, make it something you can remember, make it something that means something to you, most importantly. Most importantly, if you do feel like you have kind of, just anything that's going on with you. Maybe you want more excitement or more connection, so you could say, I am open to loving connection, and just literally programming that one little sentence into your subconscious will do amazing things for you. And this is not a one and done practice, like life, nothing is one and done. Um, Literally nothing. Like we like to think like, oh, we just like eat some food, one and done, and you never have to eat again. Like, no, that's not the thing. Like we have to eat every day. You need that fuel, um, every day in order to keep the machine running, So this is kind of along those same lines. Not to say that you have to do Yog Nidra every day, but that it definitely, your sankalpa or your resolve will become more prominent and more powerful the more times that you plant that seed and the more times that you ingrain that in the subconscious. So if you do the practice, once a week, that could be a great way to start reprogramming your subconscious mind, or once a month even can be a powerful thing. Once in a blue moon. Speaking of, we do have a blue moon coming at the end of May this month, so that's kind of fun and exciting. And if you did not know, a blue moon is when you have two full moons, or it's when two full moons happen within the same calendar month. Um, and the second of the two is called the blue moon. So we just had our first on the 1st, and we're going to have our next full moon right at the end of the month here under that blue moon. So anyway, I don't know why I went on that tangent. But yeah, so you can do Yog Nidra anytime. Anytime that you see fit. Obviously, you need that time and space carved out. So I would say half hour to an hour so that you have full time to like do the practice and then also to kind of relax and recalibrate afterwards. Um, but it's a really, really great way, powerful way, an easy way, quite frankly, um, to make some really big changes in your life. Because I say easy because although this work does require, action, and it requires your full engagement in it, it really doesn't require that much from you outside of you laying on the ground and listening to the guide speak whatever they're speaking. So it's really all you have to work on. And so if you can just lay there and listen, it can be um, a very great practice for even just honing your listening skills. I know a lot of people could probably use, myself included, could use some listening skill help. Um, so yeah. So anyway, so after your Sankalpa, that's not all we're doing here anyway. That's just the beginning of the practice. So, you lay down, you get relaxed, you do some breathing, you make your little intention, you repeat that self to yourself a few times, and then you go into some more of the practice. So really, it's just about, probably the hardest part about this as you enter the practice is staying awake, is keeping that consciousness and staying in that subconscious level and not letting yourself go fully into the unconscious. And so from here we begin our rotation of consciousness. And so essentially at this point, after we've done our breathing, we've done our resolve, we're kind of relaxed and we're ready to enter Yog Nidra, where we rotate the consciousness throughout the body. And so what I mean by that is that you keep your body still, you lay on the ground, you keep the eyes closed, but as the guide or the teacher or whoever states a place or a location of the body, then you bring your mind and attention to it. So you start with like the right thumb, and then you move into the second finger, and the right third finger, and the right fourth finger, and so on. And you move through all these body parts. And really all you're asked to do at this point is to just follow along. Bring your awareness and your consciousness to each of these areas as they are listed. And just let the mind kind of jump from place to place to place to place. And this is done in a really specific manner, but if you have a good Yog Nidra teacher, they will know exactly what to do. So really, you just listen to them go through the whole rotation of consciousness, and you just try to follow along. Um, and then after that, usually there is a little bit of body sensation, so just kind of checking in with the body, feeling opposite sensations, getting the feeling of hot, getting the feeling of cold. And, when we do these brain activities with ourselves, especially when we work with opposites, so like with the sensations, like if we say, think hot, think about anything hot, think about your body being hot and the hot sun and this, that, the other. And then we switch it to go, okay, now think really cold, think about cold, think about cold. What this is doing to your brain is making your left and your right hemispheres balance out and come into harmony with each other. So as we go through these, extremes and these back and forths, pain and pleasure, hate and love, hot and cold, heavy and light, all of these opposites, it kind of brings your brain into these, mental exercises where we find this really great balance and homeostasis in the brain waves. So from there, really, we just typically will go into some sort of visualization, something to kind of close out the practice. And then before closing out the practice, you are always reminded of your resolve or your sankalpa from the beginning that you placed at the beginning of the class to kind of wrap it up at the very end and bring it back to awareness and really let that sink in. And then that is pretty much all. I mean, you can end with a few minutes of just lying in savasana. I will say a lot of times people do feel very, I don't want to, like, I don't mean out of it in a bad way, but yeah, kind of like very out of it, very like grounded, but very much like they just came out of a dream, out of a dream state. Because you kind of are. You're in that in between state. Um, and now people ask all the time, of course, like, oh, well, do people fall asleep? I'd be too scared of falling asleep. And it's like, yeah, for sure. For sure, there's definitely people who fall asleep, and that's okay. So I've always joked, like, if they fell asleep, then they actually needed it. And so people do fall asleep sometimes, but you really do want to try to tell yourself before you or as you're entering the practice that, like, I will not go to sleep. I will listen. I am awake, and just kind of reminding yourself these things to help not fall asleep. But if you do fall asleep, eventually you'll probably wake up within the practice and just jump right back in wherever everyone else left off, just jump in where you can, where you're picking up in your consciousness, and move along. It's not perfect. It's not meant to be perfect. And the first time you do it, you very well might fall asleep. It does take a little bit of practice to find that sweet spot of the subconscious mind and be able to ride that wave out for a period of time. But it is very, very fulfilling. And it's really, really powerful. And there's a million different ways that you can use this to help your own self in your everyday life. And so I think this is a super powerful yogic tool that isn't very well understood. People just kind of look at it and think of it as, a relaxation class or a meditation class or yin yoga. And it's none of those things really. It's its complete own situation. And I think the thing that I love about it is that it shows the power of the mind. It shows the immense study of the mind that these ancient sages have done for thousands of years just for the idea of becoming a better master or a better friend to our own body, mind, and soul. Like all of these practices are literally created for us so that we can live healthier and better and more aligned lives. Um, and when you look out in the world of modern life and consumerism, there really isn't that many things that you can do or receive that do make your life actually better. I like lots of products and people and things out there might say, "Oh, this will make your life so much better." Da, 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 da. But then you get it home and it's like it's just a piece of crap that just sits on the table and you don't even use it and blah blah blah. I think we've all been there with like the purchase that we thought was really gonna like change our life, and then it's like, oh, actually this physical thing does nothing for me. And so it's just really quite amazing that we have these tools at our hands, at our fingertips, that we can use that actually can help us in our everyday life. It just takes our time and our energy to do it, and that's what everybody is claimingly poor of is time and energy. So it really just amazes me with these yogic practices, like how they are all just right there and they're available for us and they're ready for our mind, our body, our spirit, our psyche, whatever you want to call it, to be used and to be used in a way that is helpful for humanity, helpful for our communities, and helpful for our homes and ourselves and our bodies. So this is really why I have dedicated my, entire life really at this point to yoga and yogic practices and spreading the knowledge of yoga and the awareness of yoga and what it can actually do for us when we utilize it in the way that it was intended to be. Because it's just the power is so large and vast. It's quite irreplaceable. Once you learn to tap into your own power, your own soul, and be the director of your movie or be the captain of your ship, it really changes everything about life when you realize that you hold the intention and that you can make that intention whatever you want it to be. So I guess, like, to recap, for a Yoga Nidra practice, essentially all you're doing is laying on the ground for about 40 minutes-ish, and really diving into the subconscious mind, really planting those seeds that you feel you need to plant for your highest good, and then diving into the realm of consciousness and into swimming through that subconscious sea and coming back up and seeing what you have found. Like I said, a lot of the times, anytime I've taught a Yog Nidra practice or session or anything, everybody is just the energy is always very, very interesting afterwards, because everyone is just in their own little daze of whatever it is that they are working through. And it's really quite amazing to see the lightness and the supportiveness that they then feel, the trust that they might feel after going through this practice and after really letting things come up, letting things rise, and seeing things as they are, and then letting it fall away and move forward with that new knowledge, with that new wisdom. So yeah, I think it's really a beautiful practice of programming the subconscious to better our lives. That is really what Yog Nidra is. And I think if people understood it as that, they might give it a try a little bit more. They might not brush it off so quickly. A lot of people ask, like, is this essentially hypnosis? And I don't know how to exactly answer that question. Because quite frankly, it is very much doing the same thing that a hypnotist does, as far as we're entering that subconscious mind and we are playing in that realm, if you will. But the difference here is that a hypnotist, typically you're putting all the power within the hypnotist, and they are the ones telling you the things that you're going to do, or the changes that you're making, or that you're, quitting cigarettes or whatever it is. Where in Yog Nidra, the onus is much more on you. You are in control of your mind space and where you're going in the subconscious realm. Yes, you are listening to a guide or a teacher, but they should be very, it should be very robotic almost, what they're saying, as far as like when they bring you through rotation of consciousness. Like, it should just go from one thing to the next. They really shouldn't be sharing anything in between there. No nuggets of wisdom or anything like people like to sprinkle throughout yoga classes. This is more of like you dive deep inside yourself, listen to the guide as your anchor point, as like your tether of, this is where people are awake and this is where I'm awake, but I'm going to dive down deep into this ocean of the subconscious and swim around here. But I still have my tether to the ship. I still am not just like free diving here, scuba diving. I have that tether, which is your teacher's voice, or that guide's voice, that kind of keeps you in that realm and keeps you from slipping into the unconscious, hopefully. But again, if you fall asleep during the class, just wake up and try again. And like I've always said, if you fell asleep, then your body actually did just need sleep. So don't beat yourself up. Try again. Do it at a different time. Maybe don't do it in the evening. Do it in the morning or whatever. Try it out. See what you think. And yeah, just I highly encourage you to go ahead and find a Yog Nidra class around you, and go attend it because they are just super powerful. And if you're thinking, well, there's no studios around, or that's really specific, there isn't a Yog Nidra class, blah, 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 then I am here to help. So that is what I love to do here, is help and be the guide for everybody as far as trying to go along on this journey. And that is where I am here to help. I have been really excited about this. This has been stewing within me for months and months and months now, and it's finally real. So thank goodness for that, and I'm glad I'm no longer procrastinating. Um, but I created a Yog Nidra audio for you, and so this is an audio. You can find it on my website. I will link in the show notes here. And it is an audio that is just under 40 minutes long. And it is exactly that. It is a yoga nidra class where it just goes from the beginning to the end. You press play, you lay down, you do the things, you listen, and when it's over, it's done. Um, so that is an audio download. It's like an MP3 download. You can get it off my website. It's $14.99, and you purchase it once and then you download it forever. So you can use it as many times as you want. Just buy it one time and then it's yours forever. So I am really excited about this because I love Yog Nidra, if you can't tell. And I think there's just not been enough access to it or enough qualified teachers for it. And it's a practice that holds so much power, so much power. So I'm really excited to share it with you guys. This is a very simple practice, very beginner friendly. The visualizations are very gentle, nothing wild. I've read like a ton of different visualizations and things like that that go with Yog Nidra classes. And some of them are pretty crazy, I'm not gonna lie. Like some of them are pretty intense. And I'm like, I don't know that we need to go that hardcore right now, but let's do some chill stuff and maybe we'll get more hardcore as we go on. But so yeah, this audio was very much created with both the intermediate and the beginner yogi in mind, because like I said, you can start as a complete beginner here. You don't need to know how to do a sun salutation in order to do Yog Nidra. All you need to be able to do is lay on the ground to practice Yog Nidra. So again, very beginner friendly, very low threshold to be able to practice and get yourself into this mind state and use the power of Yog Nidra in your own life. So with that, I am going to wrap us up. But thank you so much for being here today. And yeah, we'll see you next week. We'll talk soon, friend. One light, one love, and I will see you later. Bye. Om Loka Samista Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om